Okay, lots of chatter going on, so that means we're finished, yes? You have to quiet down, please. It's nice to hear everybody working together doing this stuff. Teamwork is wonderful. I'm not going to say makes the dream work because that's just no fucking good. I'm not doing that. Sorry. Anyway. So the next section, this is the annual compliance. So this is a narrated PowerPoint. Everybody needs to be quiet. You got to listen to the stuff and follow through. I think it's better than me standing here orating through all those individual slides. So we'll get that started right now. I listen to it. At the end, there's a sheet that's on your table that I need you to sign that you participated. If any questions after the fact, you can contact me after the meeting. Okay? Perfect. We get it going?
Black & McDonald Annual Compliance 2025. Health, Safety, and Environment. Corporate People Resources. National Fleet. Quality Assurance. To ensure all members of the Black & McDonald team are aware of their responsibilities, an annual review of our policies and procedures is required. All copies of related policies and documents can be found on the wire. Health, Safety, and Environment. Corporate HSE Policy. Black & McDonald and affiliates prioritize the protection of employees from injury or occupational ill health as a core value and is committed to providing a safe and healthy work environment. The senior management team is dedicated to maintaining the physical, psychological, and social well-being of its employees, contractors, suppliers, visitors, and all workplace parties. Occupational health and safety objectives and continual improvement efforts, with a target of a zero-incident workplace, are determined and reviewed. These objectives are to be achieved through effective communication, supervision, education, training, and resources. Committed to continual improvement, with a focus on a zero-incident workplace. A pledge that every precaution reasonable in all circumstances will be taken for the protection of all employees. Black & McDonald recognizes that a safe and healthy work environment is the right of every employee and can be established and sustained only through a united effort by all workplace parties. The prevention of incidents and the provision of safe and healthy working conditions is the responsibility of all senior management, supervisors, and employees of Black & McDonald and its affiliates. Employees at every level are responsible and accountable to protect themselves, coworkers, others in the workplace, and support the joint health and safety committees in pursuing health and safety excellence. Black & McDonald and its affiliates are committed to providing proactive leadership and support to achieve this goal. The implementation of this policy requires every Black & McDonald employee to be involved and supportive of the HSE management system and hold the protection of the environment as a core value when carrying out everyday business activities. Incident management. All incidents shall be reported to your immediate supervisor/manager, regardless of the severity. First aid treatment shall be provided by a certified first aid attendant. If medical treatment is required, it is the supervisor's responsibility to provide you with a functional abilities form and/or an early and safe return to work package to be completed by the health professional. The supervisor/manager must also arrange for safe transportation to the hospital or medical clinic. Joint health and safety committees will be notified of all incidents, suggested improvements on processes or procedures, and all corrective actions as prescribed by federal/provincial legislation. Unless otherwise directed by a regulatory officer or peace officer, a person must never disturb the scene of an incident that is reportable to the federal/provincial regulatory authority, unless necessary to attend workers injured or killed, prevent further injury or death, and to protect property that is endangered. All incidents resulting in medical attention beyond first aid, or a near miss meeting dangerous occurrences criteria, an incident investigation report is required to be completed by the worker's supervisors. Corrective actions shall be developed and approved by management. These must be implemented within a reasonable amount of time. The use of interim control measures should be considered until a permanent control can be put in place. All incidents must be entered into e-compliance. Return to work/modified duty program. Black & McDonald is committed to providing a safe and healthy workplace for all employees. In the event of an injury/illness, the company will make every reasonable effort to provide suitable return to work options for employees who are unable to perform their regular duties, up to the point of undue hardship, by committing to facilitate an employee's early and safe return to work by promoting effective rehabilitation and monitoring medical services and methods of rehabilitation. Provide modified work that is safe, within the employee's medical restrictions, and promotes productivity at Black & McDonald. Facilitate an employee's return to regular, pre-disability duties with support from appropriate personnel, and reduce the financial impact of work-related injuries/illnesses to the employee and the organization. Good Catch Program. A good catch is a recognition by an employee of a condition or situation that had the potential to cause an incident but did not, due to corrective action and/or timely intervention by an employee. The Good Catch program at Black & McDonald is aimed at recognizing the proactive decisions and actions made by Black & McDonald employees, subsidiaries, and affiliates. If you would like to acknowledge your own, or a coworker's, careful observations and quick thinking, contact your supervisor or enter the details into e-compliance on a Good Catch form. Working alone. Workers who work alone or in isolation are more vulnerable than those who have coworkers present, particularly if the lone worker is on shift during late night hours. They also face an increased risk of confrontations and/or violence/harassment, and these concerns should be taken into consideration when planning for the job. As such, access to help must be identified before commencing work. Site-specific procedures may be required in order to clearly identify the following: worker contact information, Contact information for the administrating source responsible for monitoring working well-being. Length of time between contact or call-in. Changing locations. Leaving site for emergency calls. When finishing for the day. Working alone plan. In order to effectively establish and implement a working alone plan, the following questions should be considered during job planning. Are there other people in the vicinity? Are those people aware of your workers' need for assistance? Are they willing to provide assistance? Are they able to provide assistance in a timely manner? Annual training review. This annual refresher provides insight into key aspects of the Black & McDonald HSE management system. And while it is important to review this information, a thorough understanding of our processes, it is equally as important to ensure compliance is maintained with hazard-specific training. Upon completion of the annual compliance, you will be requested to complete your required annual refresher trainings, which may be hazard-specific or client-specific. Now is also a good time to complete a thorough inspection of your personal protective equipment, tools, and other equipment to ensure they are in good condition. If you discover any issues, contact your supervisor directly to fix or replace them.
Corporate people resources.
Anti-harassment, workplace violence, and discrimination. Workplace harassment. Engaging in a course of provoking vexatious comment or conduct against any person or group in the workplace that is known or ought reasonably to be known to be unwelcome. Workplace harassment includes, but is not limited to, any inappropriate conduct, comment, display, action, or gesture that is made on the basis of race, nationality, or ethnic origin, color, religion, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, marital status, family status, physical or mental disability, or other personal characteristics. Workplace harassment also includes workplace sexual harassment, bullying, and abuse of authority. Workplace discrimination. Any action or behavior that negatively affects the status of an employee, colleague, supplier, customer, or consumer that is based on the prohibited grounds identified in applicable human rights legislation. Discrimination generally refers to actions towards or practices regarding members of a group that result in them being disadvantaged. Employees who violate this policy will be subject to disciplinary action, up to and including suspension of duties or termination of employment. At Black & McDonald, we take pride in our long history and believe in exemplifying our core values by creating and maintaining a safe and respectful workplace for our employees and our customers to do business. Ingrained in these values is a commitment to provide a respectful, fair, safe, and healthy work environment. We will not tolerate or condone discrimination, harassment, or violence, including acts of sexual harassment and/or violence. No one, regardless of their role in the company or their affiliation with the company, has the right to discriminate, harass, threaten, or otherwise create a disrespectful work environment. All employees are expected to conduct themselves in a way that promotes a safe work environment and exhibit respect for all individuals, including co-workers, colleagues in our partner organizations, suppliers, consumers, members of the public, and all others we interact with at work. Building a positive work environment is a shared responsibility that requires everyone to play a role. If you experience or witness a violation of this policy, you must report it to your supervisor, manager, other member of the management team, or HR partner. Anti-racism. Racism can be openly displayed in racial jokes, slurs, or hate crimes. It can also be more deeply rooted in attitudes, values, and stereotypical beliefs. In some cases, people don't even realize they have these beliefs. Instead, they are assumptions that have evolved over time and have become part of systems and institutions. Systemic racism is a form of racism that is embedded in the social or administrative structures of an organization which create or perpetuate a position of relative disadvantage for racialized groups. Black & McDonald is committed to anti-racism and eliminating systemic racism, racial discrimination, and harassment in the workplace. We respect the dignity and worth of every person and will not accept or tolerate racism in any form or from any source, including employees, subcontractors, customers, or suppliers. Our approach to our workplace culture is based on achieving equity for all of our employees. Black and McDonald acknowledges and reinforces that everyone has the right to equitably and fully participate in a workplace environment free of discrimination and harassment based on bias, bigotry, or prejudice against a race or racialization of an individual or a group. Diversity and inclusion. Our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DI, fairness and respect have been core values of Black and McDonald since our founding in 1921. Our ongoing success continues to be rooted to how we as an organization and as individuals treat others and build positive, lasting relationships. We believe that striving to be a diverse, equitable, and inclusive company aligns with these well-established principles and makes us and our business better. Our goal as an employer is to enable our people to flourish. We are committed to providing every individual with an equitable opportunity to meaningful work, to treating everyone fairly, and to sustaining a work environment based on mutual respect, integrity, personal fulfillment, autonomy, and trust. We protect people's dignity and well-being by being a place where people can be themselves and feel safe, welcomed, included, and valued regardless of background, perspective, role, and contribution. For our customers, subcontractors, partners, and local communities, we model the same decency, understanding, and fair play. We are strongly committed to advancing diversity in our company and fostering an equitable and inclusive workplace culture, thereby enabling and empowering all people to fully participate, to reach their potential, and to contribute to the success and welfare of the Black and McDonald community. Employee conduct. Employees are expected to demonstrate integrity, the quality of having strong moral principles; credibility, the quality of being worthy of trust or belief; professional conduct, the quality of personal conduct that reflects the values of the company and enhances the personal reputation of the individual; ethics, acting in accordance with the rules or standards of reasonable conduct or practices; honesty, the quality of being truthful, sincere, or frank, free from deceit or fraud. Alcohol and drugs. Employees are expected to use prescription and non-prescription drugs in a safe and responsible manner such that their ability to perform their job safely and productively is not adversely affected. Prior to beginning work, you must notify your manager/supervisor immediately before your next shift of any adverse effects that could affect your ability to work safely and productively. If your position is classified as safety sensitive, under no exceptions will you be permitted to perform work while authorized to use medical cannabis as a form of treatment due to the lack of control over variations in product potency, side effects, and compliance with recommended dosages and frequency of use. You must explore other medical options or be moved to a non-safety sensitive position where available and where this requirement may be accommodated. Employees who believe they have a drug and/or alcohol addiction and are concerned about their ability to comply with Policy 4.6.03 encouraged to self-identify before safety and job performance are affected or violations of the policy occur. Employees will not be disciplined for voluntarily requesting substance abuse support provided that they self-identify prior to any work-related violation of the policy, including mandatory testing requirements. You may be subject to testing as triggered by necessary conditions or circumstances, including reasonable grounds, post-incident testing, pre-site testing, client, and return to duty. Violation of this policy can result in corrective action, depending on the circumstances, including corrective action, up to and including termination of your employment or contract. Legal action may also be necessary depending on the circumstances. Confidentiality. Black and McDonald recognizes that employees will have access to and/or be exposed to confidential information belonging to the company and its clients, subcontractors, agents, and employees, such as personnel files, customer lists, bid documents, pricing, processes, proprietary materials, trade secrets of Black and McDonald or its partners, subcontractors, suppliers, or customers. Collectively, these are referred to as confidential information. Each individual has contractual obligations to the company, including a duty to preserve the confidentiality of information they receive in the course of performing their duties for the company. The company recognizes that in the course of performing their duties, individuals will have access to and/or be exposed to confidential information belonging to the company and its clients, subcontractors, agents, and employees. All individuals are subjected to act in accordance with this policy. Consult with their manager/supervisor if they are uncertain whether or not they are compliant with this policy. Immediately notify their manager/supervisor in the event they believe that any person inside or outside the company is inappropriately using or disclosing any confidential information.
Conflict of interest. All Black & McDonald employees are expected to conduct themselves with personal integrity and demonstrate ethics, honesty, and diligence in performing their duties for the organization. Employees are required to support and advance the interest of the organization and avoid placing themselves in situations where their personal interests, actually or potentially, conflict with the interests of the company. Conflicts of interest can include receiving fees or gifts, financial interests, bribery and facilitation payments, political contributions and activities. Information technology. Black & McDonald provides users with IT resources for the purpose of conducting company business. Employees should be vigilant to protect company assets and its brand. All employees with access to company information and communication systems, whether computers or voice systems, are responsible for using them for both internal and external communication, responsibly and in line with the company's values and beliefs. Employees are responsible for treating their user profiles and information they access as confidential. While the use of email and other electronic information is very important to the business of Black & McDonald, improper use may expose the company to significant risks and liability. Acceptable use of social media. When posting on social media, either in a professional capacity or a personal post that identifies you as an employee of Black & McDonald, all applicable laws, Black & McDonald policies, and the Black & McDonald social media guidelines apply. Appropriate consents and permissions must be obtained before posting any content that references Black & McDonald. For more information, refer to the Black & McDonald social media guidelines or contact the Corporate Marketing and Communications Department. Competition and antitrust. Competition and antitrust laws are designed to protect the free enterprise system and to promote open, fair competition in the marketplace. Competition and antitrust laws prohibit anti-competitive activities such as bid rigging, false or misleading advertising, price fixing, price discrimination, predatory pricing, refusals to deal, agreements amongst competitors to allocate markets or customers, to boycott suppliers or customers, to fix wages, or to not poach employees. All employees must inform themselves of and comply with all competition and antitrust laws. Violations of competition and antitrust laws are considered a criminal or civil offense with serious repercussions. Any employee who violates this policy will be subject to disciplinary action, up to and including termination of employment, fines, and/or prison sentence. Business with government agencies. Special rules apply when contracting with certain owners, particularly federal, provincial, state and municipal agencies, such as rules relating to business courtesies and asking for or receiving disclosing information, as well as obligations regarding disclosing conflicts of interest. If you are involved in such work, it is your responsibility to be aware of and comply with all applicable laws and regulations and request for proposal requirements. Reporting and handling complaints. Reporting breaches of the Black & McDonald Code of Conduct. In order to protect Black & McDonald from unethical or illegal activity, it is the duty of all employees to not only uphold the code of conduct on a personal level, but to report any known or suspected breach of this code by another employee. Upon completion of this training, you will be asked to review the Code of Conduct and complete a receipt and acknowledgement. Concerns regarding breaches of the Code of Conduct should be reported to your immediate manager/supervisor. Should you not feel comfortable taking the issue to your immediate manager/supervisor, you may contact the Vice President, Corporate People Resources, or the General Counsel. Handling complaints. The person to whom the report was made must forward the report to the Vice President, Corporate People Resources, and the General Counsel. All complaints will be investigated thoroughly in a discretionary and respectful manner. Employees will normally be required to submit their allegations in writing, but such allegations will be kept confidential to the extent possible, keeping in mind Black & McDonald's obligation to conduct a full and thorough investigation and its obligation to comply with applicable law. No one may retaliate against an employee who has reported a breach or suspected a breach of this code in good faith. Allegations of retaliation will be investigated by Black & McDonald, and individuals who have been found to retaliate will be disciplined up to and including termination of employment. Personal privacy and personal information. Black & McDonald is committed to maintaining the accuracy, confidentiality, and security of all personal information collected in relation to its personnel, and will comply with the privacy legislation of each jurisdiction in which it operates. In the case of a transfer of personal information to affiliates or third-party service providers that process or store the personal information on Black & McDonald's behalf, the company requires that such affiliates and/or third parties have agreed to safeguard the personal information and use the information only for the purpose for which it has been provided. Labor exploitation. Black & McDonald Limited is committed to ensuring that it and its suppliers do not use forced labor or child labor, and to ensuring that it and its suppliers pay all employees a fair wage. Everyone has a responsibility in upholding human rights and labor standards. Black & McDonald and its suppliers ensure compliance with this policy as it relates to their employees. Comply with applicable Canadian, U.S., and international laws prohibiting forced labor and child labor. Ensure employees are aware they are free to terminate their employment at any time. Ensure all employees meet the applicable minimum legal age requirement. Ensure employees are paid at or above the minimum pay according to statute law or collective agreements. Set work hours, wages, and overtime pay in compliance with all applicable laws. Ensure workers are aware of forced labor and child labor prohibitions and the actions that will be taken against the employees for violations. Provide workers an opportunity to report suspected violations without a fear of retaliation. Pursuit managers understand the obligations associated with prevention of labor exploitation as they apply to Black & McDonald and its suppliers. Project managers ensure compliance with this policy and procurement requirements under the contract. Subcontract/procurement teams assist regional offices when forced labor/child labor/fair wage is a business/customer contract flow-down requirement. Code of Conduct. The Black & McDonald family of companies has a set of core values that guide our actions and the choices we make. These values and beliefs guide how we run our projects, how we interact with our customers, subcontractors, suppliers, and partners, and how we deal with other employees. The philosophy of conducting business is based upon the core values of our grandfather who established the company in 1921. Do the job right regardless. Talk to the customers regularly, confirm their satisfaction. Make the price fair and reasonable. A deal is only a good one when it is good for both parties. Live up to your promises. Treat employees with respect. Complete jobs promptly. Invoice promptly, fairly, and in detail. Delegation of authority. Black & McDonald has established guidelines that require transactions and agreements affecting the company and its assets to be approved by individuals with an appropriate authorization level. You should review the delegation of authority policy and accompanying regional approval matrix showing approval levels applicable to the region where you work in areas such as estimates submitted to secure and/or subcontract work, execution of contracts and/or purchase order upon award of the work and any related subcontracts, procurement of materials and services, financial transactions, fixed asset purchases or leases, expense reports and investments, human resources transactions, including routine and non-routine transactions, corporate contracts and other legally binding agreements.
National fleet. Operating a motor vehicle. For these purposes, a motor vehicle refers to any motor vehicle being operated on company business. This includes your personal vehicle in the event that you use it to travel for work, any vehicle that is provided to you by Black & McDonald to do company business, or any vehicle that is obtained using a car allowance. While on company business, you must operate a motor vehicle safely and in compliance with good business practices and all applicable legislation. This includes, but is not limited to, the provincial and state highway traffic acts and applicable provincial vehicle safety codes. These are the minimum acceptable standards, and Black & McDonald will take all reasonable and practical steps to ensure the safe operation of a motor vehicle for the protection of our employees, property, and the public. Personal use of a company vehicle. If Black & McDonald has provided you with a vehicle in order for you to perform your employment duties, in some circumstances, the company-provided vehicle is used for a purpose other than business. As an employee provided with a company vehicle, any personal use of the vehicle is considered a taxable benefit to you. Depending on the vehicle type, there are specific responsibilities and requirements to ensure compliance with Canada Revenue Agency guidelines related to the personal use of the company vehicle. Motor vehicle records. If you drive a company vehicle or you receive a car allowance, the company will require access to your motor vehicle record, MVR. Evaluating motor vehicle records is a proven method of reducing our risk by ensuring drivers are operating vehicles safely and within the rules of the road. Upon hire and annually thereafter, the company will obtain and review MVRs for all drivers. After review, if the MVR shows a driver is a potential risk to the safety of others, the company will implement corrective action for that driver, up to and including suspension or rescindment of driving a company vehicle or driving a personal vehicle on company business. If you drive a company vehicle or receive a car allowance, you are required to inform your supervisor immediately of any changes to your MVR, such as convictions, administrative suspensions, or a medical condition that would impact one's ability to drive safely. Failure to notify on a timely basis may be grounds for the removal of driving privileges and further disciplinary action, up to and including dismissal. If you do not drive a company vehicle or receive a car allowance, you are not required to supply your MVR or advise your supervisor of any changes to your MVR, unless you are asked to perform a task that requires driving. In this case, you must disclose any suspensions or conditions that would impact your ability to drive safely. The collection and use of telematics information. Black & McDonald company vehicles are equipped with a global position, GPS, monitoring device. Employees operating a company vehicle with a GPS monitoring device must be aware and acknowledge that telematics information is collected and stored. The telematics information collected generally relates to the business use of the vehicle and used for the purposes relating to the employment relationship. This includes retrieving a vehicle that has been stolen, locating a missing employee, to assist in ensuring employee safety, e.g. working alone, dispatch and routing, verifying customer disputes of time billed or work performed, vehicle odometer readings and distance traveled, auditing after-hour use of the company vehicle, validating third-party complaints, monitoring the frequency of speeding against the posted speed limits. Tampering with any GPS equipment installed on company vehicles is prohibited and subject to disciplinary action, up to and including dismissal.
Quality assurance. Corporate quality policy. Black & McDonald Limited recognizes that outstanding service and product quality are essential for our continued success. We are guided by our founder W.J. McDonald's philosophy to do things right and deliver lasting value. With more than 100 years in business, quality remains at the core of everything we do. As an integrated multi-trade service provider that safely delivers high-quality construction, facilities management, and technical solutions, Black & McDonald's policy is to provide our clients with products and services which fully meet their specified requirements and expectations while complying with all relevant regulations, codes, and standards. This quality policy is implemented by communicating the quality policy to all employees and posting it in our offices, implementing a quality management system aligned to the context of the specific regional operations and industry requirements, continually improving the effectiveness of the quality management system, ensuring a clear understanding of our clients' requirements and responding promptly to their feedback, providing the necessary resources to achieve our quality objectives, enabling all our employees to meet quality requirements while achieving the customer's satisfaction by delivering value both on time and on budget.
Thanks, everybody. A lot of information to take in. I appreciate you sitting quietly and your attentiveness while the stuff's playing. So please make sure you've signed that acknowledgement sheet for me. And because everybody was so good, you've earned yourself about a 10-minute break. And then we're going to come around and collect the paperwork while you're out having a break. And then we'll come back in at 1:45. We got lots of other presenters and stuff to go through with you. So thank you.
Test, test.
Sorry.
Test. Okay. Maybe I'll put it in the pocket down here.
Ready? Okay, everybody, we all in our seats. Quiet down so the excitement can continue this afternoon. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for the wave. Okay, I see the room's gotten a little more crowded, which is great. More people joining. So without further ado, we're going to get going on the agenda. For those who just came here, we did the annual compliance with the trades guys, so I appreciate their attention. They've been sitting for a while, so if you see anybody restless, you'll know why. So let's see if we can get this thing to move here. The battery decided to die. Can you advance that? So what's happening today? I mean, I'm going to do the introduction, but I got a safety moment to go over. Derek Munro, a colleague from PGR, is here to do a energy-based safety presentation. It's about something new and exciting coming to health and safety. We've got a couple of project updates. Ali is here to tell us all the great stuff about Project Eagle. Justin Biordi is going to fill us in on the Microsoft job. We have Shahar from Human Resources, and of course, your favorite safety manager is going to go again at the end to go over some all good stuff. Sorry, I'm taking a little bit of license with that. So, moving on. Okay. Okay, let's see if that's going to work.
Hey, Tyler.
What's up?
I've got a funny feeling about that ladder.
Yeah, but Mike and Josh set it up. It's probably fine.
Really? You should say something.
I don't want to cause any problems.
Trust me. Go talk to the boss. Better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, you're right. Hey, that ladder over there, it doesn't look right.
That's not even the proper ladder. Let's go fix it. Thanks for saying something.
So I picked that video for two reasons, and thanks very much to WorkSafe BC. They have all kinds of great information and videos we could draw on. But, you know, it fits right in with our theme that we regularly talk about. If you see something, say something and correct it. But also that worker was a young worker. We're in the spring season now, and this time we're going to start getting busier. We're going to get lots of new young workers coming to the job. We get interns, summer students, this kind of thing. So I want everybody here in the room, you got to really start thinking about these new members of your crew. So, you know, young workers experience more injuries than older workers. While young workers make up only 13% of the workforce, they account for 16% of WSIB lost time injury claims. There are several reasons why new and young workers are particularly at risk. They may lack the experience and training to recognize and avoid hazards. They may not know their rights or be properly supervised, and they may not receive adequate orientation. Want me to get that for you, or did you get that? Thanks. So all workers, young or old, are encouraged to protect themselves by asking the following questions. What are the dangers of my job? Are there any hazards? When will I receive job site training? Is there any safety gear that I am expected to wear? And when will I receive training on how to use it? When will I be trained in emergency procedures? Where are the fire extinguishers, first aid kits, or other emergency equipment? Where are my health and safety representatives, or who are my health and safety representatives? Who do I ask if I have a safety question? And who is on the Joint Health and Safety Committee? And when do they come, or when do they meet? And what do I do, when I get hurt? And who is the first aid person? Now we have a vulnerable workers program within our safety management system. It's referenced here at the bottom. And I encourage you, those of you in a supervisory position to read through that and make sure you're prepared for the influx of, which is exciting, seeing these new young workers coming this year. So, Okay, I got one more. Oh, I forgot to bring a piece of paper. Oh, unprepared, sorry. So, energy-based safety. This is something new we're working on within safety right across the country. We just thought we'd give you a sort of an overview of what the Energy Wheel is about and what energy safety is all about. A colleague of ours, Derek Munro from PGR, accepted the invitation to come and speak, and he's on the implementation committee for this new program, so I thought he'd be the excellent person to give you an overview. Prior to joining Black & McDonald Limited, Derek worked at OPG for 13 years. He also served in the Armed Forces for 32 years. We certainly want to thank him for his service in that. And now he's part of the safety team, and he's also a colleague on our corporate safety team for Black & McDonald, and as I said, part of the implementation team. So without further ado, I'd call on Derek to give you a great overview on energy-based safety. So thanks.
Came off. Is that the right spot? You hear me okay back there? Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. That's you say, hey, Derek. All right. So, as Wes mentioned, I'm here to talk a little bit about energy-based safety. Just some background. So I am a tradesman of a different stripe. I served in the Canadian Army, specifically in the Armed Forces, and tank and reconnaissance. So I spent most of my time inside big steel boxes, confined spaces, and advanced driver, advanced gunner, that sort of thing. So again, I'm a tradesman just of a different stripe. So just before we get started here, a little bit of levity. I apologize to a certain group that shall become clear in a second.
I have the knack. The knack? For technology. My mom says I always have.
I'm worried about little Dilbert. He's not like other kids.
What do you mean?
Yesterday, I left him alone for a minute, and he disassembled the TV, our clock, and the stereo.
That's perfectly normal. Kids take things apart.
Oh! The part that worries me is he used the components to build a ham radio set.
Oh dear.
Is that bad?
Normally I'd want to run an EEG on him, but the machine isn't working. It's worse than I feared.
What is it?
I'm afraid your son has the knack.
The knack?
The knack. It's a rare condition characterized by an extreme intuition about all things mechanical and electrical, and utter social ineptitude.
Can he lead a normal life?
No. He'll be an engineer.
No!
There. Don't blame yourself.
Okay. Any engineers in the room? Nobody's willing to admit? Oh, there's one. Sorry. My apologies. It's all in jest. One of my best friends is an engineer, so I feel I have the right to make fun of him. Okay. So nothing to do with the presentation, just a little bit of a laugh. Okay, so 4 strategic focus areas for our corporate health and safety organization. The one we're going to talk about is the second one there, energy-based safety. And just a bit of detail on that. So it's not a whole new program or anything too different than what we do today. I think our health and safety environment program is pretty robust. We're fairly successful, good performance across the company, I think. But there's 2 things that really it focuses on. One that's really important to us, it's referred to as SIFs, serious injury or fatality. So I'm going to refer to that as SIF throughout this. You'll hear some other kind of acronyms. If I don't spell them out, just throw your mitt in the air or throw a chalk brush at me or something. But SIF stands for serious injury and fatality. So that's one. The second is the addition of a couple of tools. Okay, so tools that workers, supervisors alike can use in the field. So it's not a completely changed program. It's important to note that our owners, the McDonald's, have studied the program enhancement. They've completed the training, so there's formal training that comes with this, put together through some folks primarily working out of the University of Colorado Construction and Safety Research Alliance, led by a fellow named Dr. Matt Hallowell. I've met him, real down-to-earth guy, has put some science to why we're talking about this. It's not an opinion. It's a little bit different than some of our legacy programs around injuries. Everybody, or most people, have probably heard of MRPH, MRPH. Yeah? Okay, some nodding heads. This is different. It helps us focus on the things that are really, really important, and I'll get to that in a second. It's a significant capability enhancer to our human performance and our health and safety and environment programs. So, a bit of an eye chart there. Maybe you can probably see that one at the back. You don't need to understand all the numbers there. It's really the pictorial representation that I wanted to talk to you about with this one. So why do we want to focus on SIF? So again, remembering that SIF is serious injury and fatality. Why do you think we want to focus on that as a company? This is the interactive part. Sorry? Yeah, ensure they don't happen. Why? Sorry? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty important to us, right? I know it sounds obvious, and I wasn't asking it to be foolish, but that's really important, that we want to make sure that nobody goes home having sustained a serious injury or a fatality. I can tell you in a previous career of mine, I lost countless friends, colleagues, coworkers to fatalities. Most of them were related to combat operations, but there were some that were related to training accidents, training events. And I consider those ones the hardest to handle because, death due to combat operations is kind of expected, right? I mean, everybody has a good sense of, war fighting and that there's an expectation if you're part of that organization that you might end up dead. But during training, I relate training in that organization to what we do every single day here, meaning you have lots of time to slow down, think about what you're going to do, talk about the safety implications, talk about the hazard identification, and do something about it, right? And the last piece is key, operationalizing your discussions and your decisions, doing something about the hazards that you identify. So that's why we want to talk about and focus on serious injuries and fatalities. So, just a show of hands, anybody been in the industry, we'll just say construction, not necessarily this region, for more than 5 years? More than 10? More than 15? 20? Yeah, some long timers here. So, what would you say, that graph is really showing safety performance intuitively or cognitively. How do you think we've been doing in safety in terms of medically treated injuries? So we'll just leave SIFs aside for a second. Reportable medically treated injuries over the past 20 years, 15 years, how do you think we're doing? Better, worse? Yeah, better? I think so. I mean, some of the stuff that we used to do, 10, 15 years ago is starkly different than what we do today. So is there anybody that would disagree that we're getting better at safety over the last 10, 15 years? I'm not going to put you on the spot. Okay, so we all agree we're doing better. And that's really what that graph is meant to show you. So the blue line with the red dots, that's on a steady sort of 45-degree decline, that's the incidence of medically treated injuries over the last 15 years. So that's from the power and electrical industry, but it's representative of industry general across North America. So you're right, we are doing better. The second part of that is, so that green arrow just sort of shows that downward incline. Wes is going to talk about the bottom graph there a little bit later on. It's our organizational performance, total recordable injury rate and total injury rate. So Wes is going to get into that in a little bit more detail, but just on the top one, that shows that we've gotten better at medically treated injuries over the last 15 years. The one that's concerning is the bottom, and it might be hard to see, but there's a line on that graph that goes across the bottom. It's gray dotted line and it has gray dots in it, gray dots across it. And generally it's a flat line across the bottom of that graph. And what it shows us is that we haven't improved in serious injuries and fatalities like MTIs over that same period of time. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, just say something. So we've not gotten any better over that 15 years at not killing people, not causing serious injuries. Is that a problem? I think it is. That's a real problem. And so that's the pictorial version of why we're focusing on serious injuries and fatalities. So having said that, given the improvements we made, between the years 23 and 25, we had 15 critical injuries across the company. So the critical injury definition is changing a little bit. Like there's an OSHA, former, it's called MLITSD now, former Ministry of Labor definition. But we want to define that a little bit more such that it really identifies those injuries that are life-changing, life-altering, or life-ending. So if you break a bone in your finger, it's under the MOL's guideline, it's a critical injury, but is that life-changing? I mean, I've broken tons of fingers and bones and ribs and all that kind of stuff. They weren't life-changing or life-altering, maybe for a short period of time, but not sustained. Okay. So there's principles. There's 3 principles with energy-based safety. The first one you can see there on the screen is that energy causes harm. No surprise, right? We need various forms of energy to do work. We need energy to lift things. We need energy to move things. We need energy to cut things. It's in everywhere in the work that we do. So it stands to reason we can't remove energy. We need that to do work, right? But we can build capacity in our systems to control the high energy hazards. So principle 1, safety then is not necessarily the absence of injuries. It's more the presence of safeguards, defenses, and controls that prevent those injuries. Is that fair? Okay. And those controls, suitable enough, must work even when humans make mistakes. And do humans make mistakes? Yeah, like all day long, every day, right? That's what we do. That's sometimes referred to as the human condition. Anybody heard that term? Yeah, so that's the human condition. And so, if, we're considering and looking at event, if the cause, or we think the cause is the humans, what do you do about that? You just fix the human condition? Well, that's ridiculous, right? So we have to consider other factors. And really, in the human performance principles space, we're not going to get too much detail into this. It's kind of a dovetail and aside to this, but a big component in the energy-based safety is about learning. So instead of just tracking beans, counting things, we've had this many injuries, it's more important that we learn from them so that we know we're going to do something a little bit different next time. You're going to share an injury event learning with your peers down at Power Generation region where I work and across the company so that we can learn something that we prevent another worker from getting into that same position in future, okay? And so that's in human performance land. Principle number 1 says people make mistakes. It's obvious, right? But we have to acknowledge that. Your best person on their best day still make errors. It doesn't matter whether the task is a success or ends in failures. So why put all our effort into eliminating human error? So human and organizational performance seeks to develop tools, barriers, defenses to prevent the inevitable human error, we know it's going to happen, the inevitable human error from becoming a consequential event. Typically, the human performance science tells us that less than 1% of the time, the humans are the cause. It may be hard for some folks to stomach or swallow that, but that's the facts. How many people do you know that come to work every day looking to break their arm? Not many. Looking to screw their boss's day up. Well, maybe some, but generally people come to work to do good work, right? This is an important factor to think about. So we need to build in those systems and processes in our organizational design, again, to account for and protect against the inevitable human error. Okay, so another bit of an eye chart. And really, you know, principle 2 is about the fact that more energy causes more harm. Stands to reason, right? And so that line, you know, what is too much energy before that energy causes life-altering, life-changing, or life-ending results? It's been determined it's 1,500 joules. Okay, so that the calculations and how we get there and the classification of events, you don't have to worry about. Wes's safety team are the experts there, and they'll help you classify those events such that we learn where that resides on the energy table. And so we can sustain less without a serious injury or fatality event, but we need to manage high energy hazards. And, you know, from the perspective of eliminating, well, we'll just go to this triangle. Everybody seen that triangle up on the left there before, the hierarchy of controls? And so that's a sort of a standardized method of energy or high hazard control. Starting from eliminating, so you eliminate the hazard, next you substitute the hazard if possible, or the chemical, or whatever it is. Then there's a couple of direct controls, engineering and administrative, and finally the least effective control is PPE, personal protective equipment. So a direct control will save your life all by itself, and even if someone messes up. So just to give you an example of a direct control, there's tons of these in the work that you do every day, but just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, think about, just say a safe work area. I don't know if this is the same term in this region, but you know, when you're lifting something, you're hoisting, rigging, whatever it is, pump motor, and you set up a place below that people can't go into while you're lifting stuff up, right? We call that a safe work area. Is it the same? You could say, okay. And so the reason we do that is that if the equipment fails, the wire rope, the crane, the chain fall, whatever the hell it is we're using fails, and the thing, the pump motor in this case, falls down, it's not going to hurt somebody, right? That's a direct control. So even if the thing does fail, or even if a human makes an error, which they will, nobody's going to be affected by that because we've established a direct control, and that's an example of a direct control. I just want to make sure everybody gets the idea of what a direct control is. Fair? Yeah, okay. Okay. So one of the tools that I mentioned at the beginning, and Wes mentioned it earlier, is called the energy wheel. Has anybody heard that term before, or anybody familiar with it? A few folks up here? Yeah? Okay. So here's a kind of a one person's take on how we identify things. And when I say things, I mean hazards. I mean, there's shit tons of experience in this room from the trade perspective, life experiences. Everybody comes to the table with something, and you're able to identify to a certain degree hazards, right? Do you think you're good at identifying all the hazards all the time? We know intuitively we're not, right? I mean, people get hurt, and when we fall down or we have events, and we go back and analyze why, it's almost always in the preparation phase that we failed, right? We didn't have the right tooling or equipment. We didn't identify the hazard sufficiently. It's typically not in the performance of the work, but what we did to get there in the preparation phase, right? The pre-job briefing, pre-job walk down, hazard assessment, whatever it is. So here's a different take.
Believe it's true or you believe it or not, it's true. Because when you believe something's true, you'll find evidence for it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a little test. Look around this room right now and notice everything you can see that's brown, okay? Everything you can find, it's a test. Look all around, both sides of you, anything you see that's brown. People at home, look at that in your own room. What you see is brown. Okay, close your eyes.
Okay.
Tell me everything you just saw that was red. Now, obviously, you saw a lot more brown, didn't you?
Yeah.
Why? Because you're looking for it. Open your eyes. Now look for red. Look for red anywhere you can find red. Any place you can find red.
Okay.
Okay? Did you find more red this time?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because I was looking for red.
That's right. Once you develop a belief, you find what supports it. So watch this. You will find stuff that's not even there in order to be successful. I bet you saw some beige shit, called it brown just to feel successful, did you?
Right over there.
I bet you saw some things burgundy and called them bread just so you could feel successful.
I factored in some of those now and later.
You see what I'm saying? If you think you're screwed up, you're messed up, you're going to...
Okay, so just to suss that out a little bit, hopefully everybody can see that. Yeah, there's an energy wheel. So on the left side of that screen, that's Black & McDonald's energy wheel. And it identifies a number of hazards that we would typically find in the workplace. And we use that energy wheel to help us identify those things that we wouldn't normally identify based on our life experiences, our trade experience, our practical exercises, whatever we bring to the table. There are going to be things, admittedly, that we're not going to see or recognize, right? The energy wheel is meant to be a tool to help us find those things that we missed. And granted, every single crew has a composition, a number of different people with tons of different experiences, and there's better benefit to that you're going to find the hazards ahead of time than not, but there's still potential that there's hazards that you're going to miss. We'll find an example here in a minute. The icons on the right, they're commonly referred to as sticky icons, STKY. Some people refer to it as stuff that kills you. Some people refer to it as shit that kills you. You'll hear all of the above. But those are high energy hazards that can kill people. And so it's important to note those hazards when we're conducting a pre-job hazard assessment or thinking about going to work. Are those things, those energy sources in our work area that could possibly kill us? And if so, what are we going to do about them? That's back to that direct control, right? You're all risk managers, right? Everybody goes to work and knows, expects, and accounts for risk every single day, right? Is that fair to say? I mean, I think mostly tradesmen in the room here. There's risk that you encounter and deal with every single day. You account for it. You mitigate the risk by doing things, right? Putting in direct controls, process, equipment, things like that. So based on research, 45% of hazards are identified without the use of any hazard identification tool. So again, I'm going to show a picture here in a bit here that helps us identify that. That's based on, again, your practice, experience, trade knowledge, life learning. The energy wheel provides us those reminders to think about hazards that we tend to not necessarily ignore, but maybe overlook based on our previous experiences. Incorporating the energy wheel into our risk assessments, and this is based on the science from the University of Colorado and the Construction Research Safety Alliance, that we can increase our hazard identification, like during risk assessments and pre-job hazard assessment, up to about 70 to 75%. So a little better than 45, right? Quite a bit better than 45%. So based on your previous life experiences, training, etc., most times we are going to identify 45% of the hazards. Adding the energy wheel takes that up to about 75. It's a big deal, right? So this is why this is important to us. So, given the yammering I've been doing about the energy wheel, how do you think you effectively use this out in the field or during a pre-job hazard assessment? Any thoughts? How would you practically use the energy wheel? Okay, I'm going to suggest or recommend something to you, and this is probably the best recommendation. Supervisors should pay attention. This isn't a tick boxy thing. You go around the energy wheel and tick those energy sources off as you see fit. This is a crew conversation. And leave the energy wheel aside for a second. Leverage the practice and experience of the crew to find those hazards that are readily evident in your work area. That's number one. Once you've exhausted that, and all crew members have contributed, supervisor has contributed, use the energy wheel to consider other potential hazards that maybe we didn't think about. That's a simple exercise or practical use of how that energy wheel is used in the field. So use your own practice, experience, training, etc., identify the hazards, then use it as a supplemental tool to get us up to that 70-75% recognition of hazards ahead of time. So I don't know if anybody in this room does that kind of work, but this is fairly straightforward, right? So have a look at that picture. Any hazards you can identify there? Rigging, what about the rigging? Might fail? Yeah. What else? Sorry? There's no tagline on that pole. That's a good one. Yeah, so remember we were talking about the safe work area earlier? Maybe that safe work area is not even close to big enough, right? Because there's vehicles that can probably drive through that area and run into that pole. Really good. What else do you see there? Sorry? Any other hazards? There's got to be more than that. No spotter, okay. The guy standing there operating the equipment? Yeah, so maybe a falling hazard. That platform might back off it. It's not all that big. I've seen that actually before. Probably some of us have. Anything else? No signage for traffic, warning, etc. Yep. So if we pull out the energy wheel, think about the other hazards. So gravity, we've talked about falling material equipment, worker falling off, mechanical, the rigging, prone to failure potentially. What about electrical? Is there any electrical hazards there? Yeah, like a live line overhead. And that's really good that you mentioned that. I don't know if anybody tracks the IHSA announcements, but this isn't part of the presentation, but it just came up this morning. So IHSA posted about a worker fatality this past weekend. Anybody hear about this in Niagara Falls, electrocuted to death? Yeah, so a worker, and it goes along with Wes's video at the beginning there with the gut feel from the young worker. Worker was moving a ladder from place to place, contacted an overhead line, and was killed instantly. Sorry? Sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know. There's not a lot of detail. The IHSA just posted the event to share as quickly as possible what happened. So this is OpEx for us at work and at home. I mean, I'm sure all of us move ladders around at home, putting up and taking down Christmas lights and all that kind of stuff. Just be cognizant of that because it can happen in an instant. I don't know all the details yet. It'll come out. You can't even find it on the Google interwebs yet. It's fairly new. What about? I don't know. I'm not sure. There's no detail about the person of the event. What about pressure? Any pressure hazards? Is there hydraulics in that crane system? Yeah, absolutely. What about temperature? Sorry? The which? Yeah, absolutely. The operating fluid in that crane system is really hot. It's hard to see in that slide as well, but there's not a cloud in the sky. That's another temperature hazard potentially, right? Heat stroke, working outside with all that gear on, bucket and extra clothes and gloves and all that kind of stuff. Temperature hazard. Chemical hazards, probably with the hydraulic fluid. What about biological? Do you see any biological hazards there? Look down at the bottom right. Anybody allergic to brain cramp? Poison ivy. Anybody allergic to poison ivy? That's what you'd see. That's what you'd consider as a biological hazard. Radiation from the sun, sound. I mean, obvious loud equipment, and motion. There's vehicles moving back and forth. The load is moving from side to side, forward and back. There's a number of hazards there that possibly we didn't uncover or didn't say out loud based on our previous work experience and training. Okay, so this is, when I talked about the classification and learning, again, Wes's team is going to be responsible for helping you classify and learn from these. This is one of the tools that we, in the safety lab, we use to classify the events. And really what I wanted to point out here is the outcome. So once an event happens, we conduct the analysis. Well, so what? So these are the outcomes that we're really, really concerned about. And you'll see one's called HSIF, one's called PSIF, and one's called LSIF. The one on the left, H, that means high energy present, and there was a serious injury or fatality. The one on the right, LSIF, means low energy present, but there was still a serious injury or fatality. The P in the middle, we haven't really thought too much about in the past, but that's a really important one. The P is for potential. So it didn't happen. There wasn't a serious injury or fatality, but there was a measured potential. It's really important to learn from those. The others, outcomes, are capacity, success, and exposure. So capacity is the release of high energy, but with direct control in place, no injury. Go back to the safe work area, the load fell and nobody was hurt. That's a capacity event. And so, again, I'm not going to get too much detail into this, but it's just to show you that there's some science to help classify the events that we experience, but also guide us into learning. And obviously, you know, from the tiered perspective, the higher we go up on that tier, so tier 1 events or classified events are the HSIF, PSIF, LSIF. Tier 2, capacity, success, and exposure, because we can learn from those. So what I want you to note, though, is the arrow on the right side. That's the learning effort. So different than past, we aim to learn more from serious injury and fatality events, whether it's high energy, low energy, or potential. That clear for everybody? Okay. So it's really about learning, you know, from the event, what didn't go right, what are we going to do differently in the work, or to make sure that, in the future, to make sure that workers aren't put in the same serious position to get injured. Okay, and really there's a 4-step process. Again, it's not an entirely new program, but it is fairly straightforward. So one is the use of the tools. The tool that we're talking about here for general, you know, sort of field work, supervisors and crews in the field, is the energy wheel. And you'll see those coming out in various documentation and PGR. We kind of embedded them in our pre-job hazard form such that it's readily available. We have all this junk hanging around my neck. We call it nuclear jewelry, but you'll see there's tools there that show that to help us as a memory aid. So really that's just a memory aid, right, to help us look at other hazards. The second piece is shit that kills you. And so, you know, the icons focus on high hazards, or high hazard energy, the ones most likely to cause a serious injury or fatality. Next is we implement controls. So this is really important. You know, often talk to guys and girls out in the field that identify hazards, but aren't readily able to or enabled to do something about them. So if there's a hazard in your work area, the notion is that you do something about it, either yourself or you raise the concern or consideration to your supervisor and something's done about it. Acknowledging and not doing anything about it doesn't really help us, right? So identify the hazards, put in direct controls. And then again, we focus on learning opportunities around sticky, serious injury, fatalities, and direct controls, including the vast quantity of potential incidents. So fairly simple. I know there's a lot of stuff there, but really just the tool. Identify those things that potentially are going to kill us, put direct controls in for those things that are going to kill us, and learn from them if we do experience events. That's really the program. Enhancement. Okay, the integration, really, so all of these things that, you know, we already do, design, planning, pre-job hazard assessments, pre-job briefs, observation and coaching, monitoring, measuring, trending, and learning, energy-based safety falls squarely in the middle of that. So it's not just another program or coming in to replace everything we've been doing for years, which is a lot of good stuff, and thank you to every single person in here for the good safety performance across the region and the company. It's a tool being added to our current processes to make them and us better and safer. Implementing the energy wheel, the high energy icons, and direct controls into our pre-job hazard assessments, our site inspections, task observations, to be better in doing those things. And really, you know, that's why we call it safety differently. And so what's next? I'm going to get into what's next for you, but this is kind of organizationally what's next. So these are some things going on in the background with your support teams. Certainly and foremost your health and safety environment team. Energy-based safety working group, which Wes mentioned, I'm fortunate to be a part of that. HSE manual and program updates, so you'll see these documented shortly if you haven't already. Definitions around serious injury and fatality, to include critical injury definition, those things that are life-altering, life-changing, or life-ending. Alignment of energy-based safety and human performance initiatives. Those are those tools that we use to prevent the inevitable human error from becoming a consequential event. Build consistency in the use and application of the SCL, and again, that's Wes's responsibility. You don't need to worry about that too much here. Incorporating ABS and SCL within the e-compliance environment, that's our safety software, and development of regional rollout guidance materials. So this is kind of a brief overview, but there'll be more information to support you in leveraging these tools in the future. So what's next for all of us? I'd say first is, consider how hazard identification prevents us from harm, produces efficient quality results. So that's not just in the pre-job hazard assessment. That's every single time you step out of the truck or out of the crew office area and you go to work, whether it's formally during the pre-job briefing, the pre-job walk down, even if it's during the day and that's already been done. You see a hazard, it's up to us and up to how we look after one another to raise that to our supervisors and do something about it. The second is, and I love this slogan for your region, if you see something unsafe or concerning, say something. I love it. It's very similar to a motto of a Canadian Army regiment called the Royal Canadian Regiment. Theirs is slightly different. It says never pass a fault. But essentially that's what that is. If you see something, say something. And you might have seen some of the safety videos over the years. They're gut-wrenching videos. Shows a person talking in the shadows, and it says, if I just had said something, and then it goes in, there's a number of them, but it goes into detail about, I saw Joe setting up his ladder. It was near a hole in the floor. I figured Joe knew what he was doing. I didn't say anything, and Joe's no longer with us. You have and can have such an impact on the safety of your co-workers and making sure that they go home safely at the end of the day. Third, I'd say, to reiterate that is don't stop looking after one another. That's a real important piece of our safety program. It's not just all the bits and pieces and the tools and the paper and all that kind of stuff. It's really in how you look after one another out in the field. That's the true success and measure of our safety program. And lastly, I'd say, as well as looking after each other, don't be afraid to say something. I mean, that's your logo. Or your tagline for the region, but I think that's really key given the volume of experience and training and life lessons that every single person brings to the table. Don't be afraid to throw your mitt up in the air and say something. Any questions for me? Okay, thanks for letting me join you today. Be well.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that. Part of that energy wheel and those sticky icons, I mean, the real goal of the corporate group is to get those icons into e-compliance. So when you're doing your pre-jobs, seemingly you're going to be able to hit on that, and that'll give you another list, a risk registry to help you really planning it out. So that's what we're shooting for, and hopefully we can see that by the next time we get together. Anyway, without further ado, we've got a project team here from Project Eagle coming up to give you some updates on that. So, Ali and James, they're coming. I didn't know both of you.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Hi there, everybody. For those of you that don't know us, my name is Alejandra Orso. I actually go by Ali, and this is James Sharif. We work as project managers within the electrical division, and currently we are assigned to working on Project Eagle, which is out in Port Colborne in Niagara, so a little bit further than our usual, I'd say. Just for today, we have a little agenda. We're going to go over a brief overview of the project, what we're doing out there, the current status, who the project team is, that sort of thing. Okay. And with that.
So just to give everyone a quick overview of the project, As many of you already know, this project name is Project Eagle. Our client is actually a Japanese company called Asai Kase. The general contractor on this job is none other than Ellis Don, who many of you are working with or have worked with in the past. The expected project completion for phase 1 is in 2027, with phases 2 and 3 expansion also available and haven't been awarded as yet. The current project value for Black & McDonald as a whole is $370 million. That includes both electrical and mechanical supply on the project. The total site footprint is 20 acres, with the building footprint of phase 1 being 700,000 square feet, and the yard area being 500,000 square feet for phase 1, totaling 1.2 million square feet of work area. Now, there's a common misconception with this project. Everyone is calling it a battery plant, but it's actually not a battery plant. They're not making batteries in this plant. They're making a small film used in lithium-ion batteries that are used to separate the anodes and cathodes of the battery.
So moving on from there, we just wanted to introduce the current project teams that are working on the job. This is a very small snippet. There's going to be a bunch more people on the job, but as of right now, there's just a few of us. So first and foremost, we've got Phil Jackson as the project director. He's currently out in Windsor, but he's going to be overseeing both the electrical and the mechanical team. And then under his guidance, you have obviously myself and James on there. We are supported by our project coordinators, Risha and Ali. We then also have the support of our site super, Keith Wright. He's also currently out in Windsor at the Nexstar facility, but he'll be moving over soon, and he has been supporting us remotely. Along with him, we've got John Hearns. He's actually on site now as of yesterday. And working with him, we also have John Hulla, who is the foreman, who's been on site now for a little while, and he's actually one of the locals in Niagara. And he's been fantastic so far, directing the team that we do have on site. We also have support from our BIM team, so we've got Chris currently doing that, and he works out just of our Scarborough office. On the mechanical side, I think most of the team is actually here today. We've got Paul Johnson as the construction manager for mechanical. Supporting him, we've got Surab as the PM. Again, he was out in Windsor up until this week, I believe. And along with him, we've got our two site supers, Carl and Vince, who have also been very hands-on in the project so far and have been there since the very beginning. And they're supported by Stan, the project coordinator on the job. And then, much like Chris on the BIM side, we've got Peter, who's also been very hands-on and working with the model. And last but not least, we've got support from our scheduling team as of right now. Akbar, he's also on site, and he was also previously at Nexstar. There are a bunch of other team members are also working in the background, helping out with the project itself. But this was sort of the core team as of right now.
So looking at the scope of work on this job, I'll start with electrical. So on the electrical side, this facility requires 60 megawatts of power. So on the electrical side, obviously our job is to distribute that power in and out of the plant, starting with the 34.5 kV turnkey substation that we'll be supplying, which will then step the power down to 13.8 kV, which will then distribute that power in the yard and in the building at both 5 kV loads and 480 volt loads. Beyond the distribution of power, we also have the supply of indoor and outdoor lighting, supply and install, the fire alarm system, wiring devices, lightning protection system, along with cable tray and conduits for all the pathways and the grounding and bonding. Now, looking at the mechanical side of scope, there's a total of 600 pieces of mechanical equipment on this job. It's very significant. Most notably, there's a tank that is 7 meters in diameter and 12 meters high, weighing in at 21 tons with a capacity of 460,000 liters. The distillation column itself is 1.5 meters in diameter and 14 meters high. They also have an air compressor with a capacity of 2,300 cubic feet per meter at 150 psi, and a nitrogen generator capacity of 10 cubic feet per meter at 100 psi and 99.9% purity level. And last but certainly not least is all the piping on this job is stainless steel, ranging from 1/2 inch to 28 inch in diameter. And the approximate total length of all the pipe on this job is 200,000 feet or 60 kilometers. So looking at an overview of the facility, which it's hard to see on that screen, but so on the outside, just to the left of the building itself, you'll see the tank yard area and the yard. Then the highlighted area of the buildings is where phase 1 is, with the outside of that being phases 2 and 3. And then everything else highlighted in yellow is where we'll have site lighting, including what the end client insisted on was lighting around each of the ponds in the 4 corners of the yard. And last but not least, there's that red area that's highlighted. That's going to be a new utility substation that's going to be built to supply power to this facility. As I mentioned, phase 1 alone requires 60 megawatts, and they'll be bringing 2 feeds in, one for redundancy. And looking at the facility itself, so outside, not only the power, but also the mechanical piping is all distributed using a pipe rack, which you'll see on the outside outlined, feeding all the power and piping in the yard to all the mechanical and electrical equipment. And then this pipe rack journeys on inside the building, where it is then feeding all the services inside the building. Looking at the building itself, there are 6 main areas. Starting in the top left is the raw material warehouse. So this warehouse is basically where the process all starts. Then we move on to the base film line. This is where the film is actually created through the process of extrusion, heating, and stretching. And then once the film is produced, it'll move on to the coating line, where it's coated to enhance its mechanical strength. And then it'll move on to the slitting and packaging area, which of course it's cut up so that it can fit into the lithium-ion batteries and packaged up. And then finally it's moved to the warehouse, which is area 5, where it is ready to ship out to its final destination. And last but not least, on the top right, you will see area 6, which is the office where they will be managing this facility. Here's some site pictures that were taken last month from a drone that they have on site. On the left here, you'll see the tank yard area at the bottom of the screen. And then right above that, you'll see phase 1 building. And then on the right, you will see the trailer town that we currently have on site, where all the trades are residing, along with a parking lot on the right. And if you look just beyond that, you'll see the front of the building where they're working on all the foundations, with the left and right areas filled with snow as phases 2 and 3.
So moving on from the design, we just wanted to show a little bit of the project timeline. So this is a very broad overview of the schedule that we have. So the project actually started last year. It's still in design development, and we're working with a consultant to get it developed and finalized. And then it's planned to go all the way to 2028. In reality, the end customer is planning to start the production towards 2027. So that's really more when we're actually planning on finishing the work, and that's kind of what you can really see here. In total, for both electrical and mechanical, we're looking at about 500,000 hours of total work across the entire job, which is a considerable amount. And at peak times, we are likely to see upwards of 200 people on site per each one of the different areas. So really quite a lot of work, quite a lot of people, but it's a big job. Going from there, we wanted to talk to you about a little bit about the BIM, if it stays on there. But basically, just kind of throw up some pretty pictures so we don't bore you to death. But this is where we're at right now. We're working on the BIM. As you can see, there's quite a lot of stuff going on. So you've got the picture on the bottom right of the entire facility. And then in the top right, that's kind of the pipe rack that we have going on, and that includes all the trades and the different things that are coming in from the yard into the building. But really the important thing that we're doing right now through the BIM is looking at any clash detection across all the trades that are working on this job, just to make sure that when we go to install things, we don't have any issues, right, and that we can start planning for those things. especially because areas certainly like down the hall in the building are quite crowded. So along with looking at the clash detection, we actually started looking at ways to improve the design to make it smoother so that it makes all of our lives easier. One of those improvements, for example, for us, certainly on the electrical side, we're looking to take some of the high voltage cables that are on the cable trays right now going down the hallway. We're planning on putting those overhead on the roof and distribute them directly to the electrical rooms, just to open up some space. We also are progressing obviously on the mechanical side, and as you can see, they've started doing quite a lot of work. They're actually a little bit further into their progress than we are in this area, so you can see they've started putting their storage tanks out, but again, they've also been dealing with a lot of the similar issues that we've been having, especially when it comes to the pipe rack. Furthermore, the BIM also is, well, we've been asked to follow this specific sequence from the customer. It really comes from the end customer. There are specific areas of the building that they want basically energized first so that they can start doing their testing ahead of time to get the facility up and running. So what you can see here is priority 1 in green in the yard, which is really where most of the work will start with. So the green portion that says priority 1 is our electrical control center, which is outside. It'll then follow in through the pipe rack into the building. We'll then go on to the red section, as you can see, and then it'll follow into the building in that sort of order of area 1, 2, and so on. As I said, and it's based on what the end customer wants to see powered up first. So that's what we are trying to target right now.
Yeah, and looking at the current status on site, of course, like any job, we've started with temporary power, grounding and sleeving, and of course, releasing all of the long lead distribution equipment, which is entirely in our scope. Looking at upcoming activities, we are looking at finalizing a prefabrication area and laydown areas for all the work that we'll have in the future. And then, of course, we are looking to put some in-slab conduit, and of course, we're looking at getting ahead of the curve by doing the site lighting as well as soon as possible. Looking at the mechanical side of things, oh, sorry, before that, here's some pictures of some of the work that's already been done. So on the left, we've prefabricated some electrical distribution C-cans to distribute power everywhere on site. Currently, we're only using them in Trailer Town, but the same concept will be used across site. In the middle, you'll see just some basket tray on sleepers with our cable organized quite neatly because the client was very adamant on this. Again, this is all just temporary power on here. And then to the right, you will see some of Trailer Complex, and at the back of the top picture, you will see Ellis Don's trailer, which is 11 60-foot trailers wide, and the client trailers, which is 4 60-foot trailers wide. And as I mentioned, we're also working on grounding, so anything highlighted in green is currently completed. This is something we're using Procore to track all of our progress. This will also has pictures of every single connection we've made out there for quality reasons. Right now we've done approximately 1/3 of the underground grounding grid, with much more to come, just pending excavation and foundations to be completed. And on the right, there's just a picture of how we're laying out the cable and also identifying it on site so we can find it and so it doesn't get damaged by other trades. Looking at the current status on site for the mechanical team, so as Ali mentioned, there's a big push for the virtual design assist, completing the 3D modeling and getting all that done prior to any work commencing. And of course, similar to the electrical side, the mechanical equipment is all being engineered, designed, and looking to be ordered and released for production. Upcoming activities is, of course, the prefabrication of all that stainless steel pipe that I talked about earlier. Shop drawing process, again, from vendors for client approval. And there's currently 5 outdoor chemical storage tanks that will be prefabricated off-site. So they're currently working on that. And lastly, it's a design and assist and value engineering job. So we're constantly working on that to work with the client to get them the best bang for their buck. So. And on the mechanical side, here's some pictures that were taken actually today. So on the left is one of the tank pads that's been completed now, ready for the tank to be installed on site. And then to the right is another tank pad currently being formed that still needs to be poured.
Okay, and just to finish off, so you didn't have to just keep hearing us talking, this is a little video that the Ellis Don team has put together from the BIM that's ongoing. Like I said, there's a lot of focus on this pipe rack and how that's going to be installed. So this video actually shows you the plan of how construction is going to go in the next few months. So it's kind of interesting to see it. The more notable portion of this is that the pipe rack obviously has a lot of work, like we said, being put into it. So what they're doing is they're going to be building the vertical sections first and the first layer of horizontals. Then they're going to be waiting for, let's say, our mechanical team to put their pipes in all the way along, all the way to the building. And until that's not finished, they won't put the second layer up and so on. In total, there's going to be about 5 layers. For electrical, our pipe rack is actually going to our cable tray is actually going to be the very last layer. So we're kind of at the mercy of everybody else and we'll have to wait. But that's currently how it's done. While that is happening, we're obviously not going to be sitting idle. So we have the control center, which was the first building that you can see over there in the top right corner. So we'll be doing a lot of work there to make sure that we're ready. And once the cable tray is up, obviously we can start pulling all our cables and so on. But be nice to see the physical representation of what's going to be happening in a very short period of time. Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I'll let the video finish, but that's all we got. Hopefully that wasn't too boring.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That's an interesting project. I was lucky enough to be part of when they were putting together the bid and talking about this at the beginning. So it's pretty exciting stuff and another success for the company for sure. So next on the list, Justin Biordi is going to regale us with the Microsoft project. So there you go.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of people in this room right now, but for those who do not know me, I'm Justin Biordi. I'm the department manager with the Mechanical ICI group. Been with Black & Mac for 13 years now and asked to present on the Microsoft job. Oh, all right. So just to kind of preface the presentation and provide some context on the facility, I thought it would be interesting to just throw in their purpose and client overview. I know most of you, everybody here probably doesn't need an explanation on who Microsoft are and what they do, but the way that's associated with the job right now is that there are 300 data centers across the world that form a infrastructure for the Microsoft cloud. The illustration on the left there is just the kind of concentrations of where those are located. The YTO site and others within Toronto, including the YTO 40 site, which our electrical team is working on now, just highlights the investment that Microsoft and other tech giants are making, expanding their infrastructure to support digital demand across the globe and within Canada, mainly with advancements in AI. Canada is well positioned geographically to host these initiatives, given our environment, climate, given our political stabilities, resource and land availabilities. So that's why we're seeing a lot of them pop up. So the project right now is comprised of 4 phases. Right now we are contracted to complete the phase 1 portion. overall, the project from an M&E perspective is approximately $60 million and contributes to 170,000 hours. I know that with most of these jobs, well, all of these jobs, it's the electrical component that makes up the meat and potatoes of it. On this job specifically, it's about 80% of the overall value is electrical. Just a quick shot of the site plan. So the project itself is two-story, 275,000 square feet, sits on 30 acres of land. This is the ground floor plan here. Within the phase 1 portion, there are 2 colo spaces, colo 1 and 2. Within those colo spaces, there are 4 cell areas. So that's the ground floor. That's the second floor. Also, we have the, let's get back, we have the admin space and office space as well. You can also see you have north and south generator yards as well. So scope. Mechanically, we have all the underground drainage, comfort heating, cooling, duct, refrigeration, plumbing within the office admin spaces. We have the evaporative cooling for the colo spaces. It's all stainless steel, non-potable, fed from the domestic water system. Then we have an installation of a ton of OFCI equipment, owner-supplied equipment, 64 colo air handling units serving those colo spaces, air handling units, crack units, split units, and then there's actually about 1,000, just over 1,000 motorized dampers on the exterior of the building. Electrically, there's about 11.5 kilometers of underground conduit, lighting poles, 1,000 MCM 35 kV cabling, copper cable buses, power, grounding, lighting, fire alarm, fiber, communications, the installation of 9 3.6 megawatt generators, UPS, PDUs, etc. So there's quite a bit involved. Each of the colo spaces in this facility are 9.6 megawatt. So from a virtual design and prefab, I mean, it goes without saying that these facilities, the extent of services within these facilities is large, and being able to leverage our virtual design capability is paramount to our success and success in any job that we do. It helps to streamline coordination, identify clashes, issues, optimize design. Also allows us to leverage our prefabrication capability as well, which on jobs like this, you know, the quick turnaround is, we need to be able to get a jump on things early. Reduces downtime, reduces waste, safety issues as well. The diagram on the right is just a quick illustration of the virtual design requirements for this job. So we fall within a level 300, between level 300 and 400 level detail. So that basically, the detail gets down granular enough that you can produce shop drawings, installation drawings. Once you start getting into the level 400, we produce spool drawings and fabrication drawings. I'll fall off the stage here. Some screenshots of our model. So that's illustration of all the underground services. See the extent of duct bank, the hydro vaults, comms vaults. That's a bit of a jungle, but it's, and I was advised to maybe take that one out, but I just wanted to show the amount of services within a facility like this, in the amount of effort that has to go into to building this model. You can see the generators on the south side there. All the pink is the duct work within the admin and office spaces. It's just another view of that. Shows a little bit more of the exterior, utility services coming in. That's a rendering right there. It gives you a better idea what the building is going to look like. Those are your generator yards. Just a couple examples of our spool sheets that we've been able to generate from our model. There's the spools on the left, on the right, up and installed. That's our water meter train. That's not built yet. And then our electrical team is, from our Moyle Court office, has been turning out these modular duct banks consistently. We've got a fiber no-burn turn back rack that was also came out of there. So schedule, manpower, and commissioning. There's some debate in the percent complete that I've illustrated there, but right now we're running about 65% complete mechanical and around 58% electrical. We can talk about that later. Manpower currently, mechanically, we got about 22 guys there. We're going to peak at around 30. Electrical, we got about 90 guys there, and we're anticipating to peak around 160. From a schedule perspective, the schedule is still kind of fluid, but the dates that cannot change are the IST dates, Integrated System Testing dates, which are July 11th and September 12th for colos 1 and 2. From a commissioning perspective, I just wanted to, commissioning on any data center is going to be the most important, most stressful point of a job. So I just wanted to highlight quickly the levels. So you got your level 1 through 5 commissioning. Level 1 is your off-site factory witness testing. Level 2 is your QA/QC. So that means anytime your materials, your equipment are showing up to site, that we're doing our inspection check sheets, etc. Level 3, your green tag, is your equipment energization and startups. Level 4 is your deficiencies all resolved. That's anything that's been identified in the previous levels. And then your level 5 is your white tag, which is your integrated system testing. Right? That's testing. They will simulate different scenarios, failure scenarios, etc. Basically, the building works. This is just an example of, provided to us by our scheduling team, of our tag tracking. So this is part of our commissioning tracking logs, going from green tag to red tag, and just tracking to see where we are, what's remaining, the status, etc. So these are just some photos of the site. The site is a little bit further progressed than this right now. Some underground installations. Some installations within the mechanical galleries. You see the dampers on the side. Domestic water piping. Some equipment that's shown up, the air handling units serving the admin space. That's one of the colo air handling units. There's 64 of those between the two colos that need to be installed. That's our 24-inch generator exhaust stack for the generators. So hydro volt and some of the modular duct bank that's been prefabricated at Moyle Court being installed. That's the colo space. That metal racking there is the hot aisle containment. Some banks of switch gear. And some future opportunities. So some of you may know that on the same property there is a proposed second facility, the YTO 12. Building virtually mimics the initial building, the YTO 11, and our presence on site positions us well. But I think that ultimately it's the performance and the quality of what everybody in this room does that is really going to ultimately lead to us being successful in pursuit of additional projects here. So I thank you guys for that. That said, keep up the good work. Stay safe. Thanks.
Thanks, Justin. Interesting jobs indeed, these data centers for sure. Come on, Shahar from Human Resources. What's that? We have to raise it up for you. Oh, sorry.
You guys can hear me back there? Everyone awake? Okay, pop quiz. How many square feet do we have on the slide for Project Eagle? Just kidding. Just trying to see if you're with me here. Okay, so we're going to talk about, pardon? How many was it? I wrote it down. Let me try and coordinate what I'm saying and go with the slides here. So I don't have any funky drawings, but we're going to talk about people. So people are funky, right? We're going to go through, just kind of update you guys in 2024 survey results, because I know a lot of you in this room did the survey this morning or this afternoon. So last year, we had 75% participation, so awesome. Give you guys a round of applause for that. And come on. And we're going to shoot for that, if not better, this year. Right, Nancy? Right. So the actual survey gets launched April 2nd. For those of you who did not do it today, just keep an eye out for that in your emails. But in terms of our focus areas, we don't anticipate a lot of change from 2024 to 2025. But the areas you have here, we should probably pick a different color for that next time. But you can see the results. I mean, a lot of that, what you're seeing right now, is very positive compared to the benchmark companies that we look at. So we have some areas where we need to obviously focus a little bit, but -1, -2 is very statistically insignificant. So those changes are really not that monumental in terms of having to, improve from where we are. But a lot of different topics, a lot of different conversations have been had here around these different areas. When we look at recognition, we look at communication, we look at management and leadership and department collaboration. Those are really the areas that we're going to be focusing on, and how we can, improve on those areas in all of the employee groups. So kind of stay tuned for more about that as we get this survey concluded in the next month. And in terms of specific actions, you can see those are the buckets. So we're looking at departments and how we communicate with each other, getting our recognition programs figured out, like what can we do in excess of the service recognition program, and then getting our executive leaders to partake in communicating the results across the company in different mediums, right? Social media is a great way to get the messaging out. You guys have seen some LinkedIn advertising of some of our achievements. So again, really kind of broadening how to get the message out, because it's a good message, right? We're doing very well compared to our benchmark companies in terms of results. HR focus areas. So this is, again, based on your input and also some analysis on our end. So employee engagement, department communication, leadership, performance, how we attract more tradespeople, how do we retain you, how do we get out to you guys, and how do we also attract the next generation coming into these organizations. So that's going to be a key focus for us. And you'll see a little bit more of communication based on how we can get more inclusivity also into our organization based on these different employee groups. This is just kind of a visual on some of the actions we've taken since the last survey. So we've done a lot on communication. Again, we're humans, right? We need to keep working on that. A lot of team meetings has been happening. We're going to try and do a little bit more direct communication with our trades and our employees who are not always in one office. And again, just leveraging technology, right? Really looking at how we can use the fact that everyone in this room probably has a phone. And that phone is a great way to communicate with everybody, and how do we do that moving forward with the different initiatives we're looking at within the organization. So today, flipping into 2025, I know, again, like I mentioned, some of you guys did this today. McLean's is the company we work for. As soon as you complete that survey, it goes into a box and it gets shipped to them. So there's nobody in Black & McDonald who opens those, sees those. It's 100% confidential, and then we get a chart like the one you saw coming back to us. Okay, so if there's any doubt, if there's anybody out there that has any questions about how we manage that, please let Nancy or I know. But we wanted to make sure we kind of put that out there, that this is 100% confidential. And the only reason you have this demographic page is just so that if there's actions we need to focus on in different areas, then we kind of know where to look. And so this is the fun part. Oh. Thanks, Nancy. I wasn't expecting the sound there. So we're going to welcome a new hires into the organization. So anybody that's hired in Q2 since February, please stand up. Come on, you guys have been sitting for a lot of time. New hires, yay, welcome. Somehow they all end up in the back, right? And then service awards and recognitions. So we are going to celebrate those of you who have achieved the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. We're going to call out your names, and we want you to stand up where you are. We're not going to make you come up and take a bow, but stand up where you are, and then stay standing up until we get through all the names, and everyone hold your applause until we get to the end. Everyone heard the instructions? Okay. So, Jason Mojica. Jason? Any Jason? Stand up. Okay. Jason, yay. Christopher? Any Christophers around? Yay, stay standing up. Michael? You didn't get the instructions. Stay standing up. Stay standing up. Michael? Okay, keep going. Stephen? Alexi? Brian? Dejan. Okay, well, congratulations to all of you. Tenures, we got Samantha, Cody, and Jeremy. I swear I saw one of you in here. Oh. And I know 25 years, Walter. Yay, congratulations. Okay, that wraps it up for HR. We'll be back next year, same time.
That's close enough. I'm not a real skyscraper, so that's close enough. Okay, thanks. Everybody getting restless? Quiet down so then I can get finished and then your restlessness can be taken care of. You know? Anyway, so spotlight on safety. There you go. I'm going to go through some statistics and just some injury trends just to share with you. And most importantly, I've got a safety talk to talk about related to some power tools and specifically auxiliary handles. I wanted to share about the Good Catch Q1 winners for the company and just a reminder on our urgent triage program. So where we're sitting at as far as statistics go, is from January to February, you can see we worked 350,000 man hours, give or take, and we had 1 recordable event and 10 first aids. Fiscal year, which that's how we're measured within Black and McDonald from November to the end of February. You know, 740,000 man hours, a hell of a lot of activity. 3 recordable events, the 18 first aids as well. I mean, you know, we look at the numbers on this on the slides and look around the room because 21 of your colleagues have been injured this year, which is completely unacceptable and exactly why we're always striving to improve our safety management system, and that's going forward with the energy wheel and the sticky icons and all this extra surveillance is what's going to help us improve. with these causal factors, really you look at the top line of all three things, standard, substandard acts, the substandard conditions, and the basic causes, and they all resonate with the same thing. It's all related to planning. Everything we talk about in our program is planning. You do project safety plans, you do pre-jobs before you shift. You're supposed to be planning your work activity. And as you can see, the events are occurring, and every time somebody does an incident investigation, it's always leading back to the same thing, whether it be lack of planning, hazards missed, etc. So, I don't know how you can keep saying you got to focus on the planning, but you got to take the time. As Derek said, you got to draw on the experience of your crew. Just because you're the foreman wearing the white hat and leading the charge on the pre-job doesn't mean you know everything that's going to be happening. You don't identify every hazard. That's what you have your crew for. That's what you have all that experienced help on your team. So, I implore you to spend the time necessary to identify the hazards and implement the right controls. And don't forget, at the middle of the shift is you got to stop and rethink of what's going on, have conditions changed, and what we need to do to mitigate any other hazards that have come up since the start. So this one here, again, I talked about young workers in my safety moment. But again, you see 9 out of the 20 incidents are workers with less experience. Again, that's pointing this out to supervisors in the room. We got to make sure with our younger, more inexperienced workers, are we teaming them up with the right partners? Are we assigning them the right tasks? Have they been trained properly for the work they're going to be doing? This one here, again, I've talked about this endlessly on our supervisor calls, is these struck by events. More than half of the events, workers are being struck by, whether pinched in, struck by equipment or tools, and really, again, a focus on your planning. Now, motor vehicle incidents. Mind you, mechanical electrical reason, you don't have a huge fleet, but, out of the incidents to the at-fault events that happened, and look what they were, hitting somebody in front of you or hitting a stationary object, right? Your colleagues in the utilities have a similar stat, except for the fact that the numbers are a lot larger, right? Falling too close, unacceptable. Hitting something that's stationary. I don't know what else to say about when you're in control of a vehicle. And I'm a commuter. I've shared that before. I drive on the 400 on a regular basis. And honestly, half the time you couldn't put a pack of cigarettes between my truck and the guy behind me because everybody's in such a freaking hurry, right? So you'll get there when you get there. One thing I wanted to share, a couple of weeks ago I was on vacation. I was coming down here into Scarborough, and there's a lot of talk about cameras on the roads, municipal speed cameras. And my GPS said when I was coming down from Barrie to go down to the lakefront where I was going to take Birchmount. So Birchmount is a 50-kilometer-an-hour road. It has speed cameras. And I was quite taken aback by the movement on Birchmount. I grew up in Scarborough, so everybody was driving at the same speed. Everybody was doing 50K, so there must have been a hell of a lot of them on the road that have been caught by this speed camera, but it works. We went down, you hit every light, you were hitting greens, the traffic moved. It was the best freaking experience that I've had driving in a road in Scarborough in years. So for the week, I was continuing to use Birchmount, and I still do when I'm over in that end of the city. But the case in point is just following that speed line. When everybody does it, nobody's cutting in and out, nobody's cutting anybody off, and traffic moves. So it does work, truly. Anyway. That's enough for my personal side note on traffic cameras in Toronto. So bandsaw incidents. These tools are meant to help, right? Not harm. So we've had 4 incidents involving bandsaws. One on May 24th, June 6th, the 19th, and the 27th just most recently, right? A couple of them are using the saw one-handed. Not designed to be used one-handed. The other 2 were designed with kickback, and workers not holding onto the saw properly, and a kickback, and they ended up getting injured. We shared this power tool safety moment on our supervisor call. And the bottom line is, I mean, tools like drills, grinders, these portabands, skill saws if you use them, they have a lot of torque, right? Derek made fun of engineers, but somebody smarter than me decided that when they were designing these tools, they require an auxiliary handle. Why? To be used properly and to prevent you from getting injured. Well, guess what? Every time somebody uses one of these tools without the auxiliary handle that's required, they're setting themselves up to get hurt, and they're also setting themselves up to do a shitty job with whatever they're grinding, cutting. And as we know, you get hurt. So, you know, the basics of this topic and the reminder about these handles, why they matter, why these auxiliary handles matter. It's obviously for improved control, vibration reduction, less risk of kickback, ergonomic benefits. You know, the secondary handles, you know, many power equipment comes with these handles. The anti-vibration handles that are designed within the equipment, and the adjustability of the handles to fit different individuals as they're using. Now these Hilti bandsaws, you know, that auxiliary handle, in order to change the blade, you have to take that handle off. So, you know, you take it off, you change the blade, guess what? You put the handle back on, right? It's not a, okay, let's move on and keep getting the job done, right? We had an incident review meeting with the managers and one of the workers that was injured with one of these handles, and talked about how when you let go of the trigger, the bandsaw blade kept moving. All more reason why you have that auxiliary handle to hold on to it, so you control the saw till the blade stops, you put it down, now you're out of harm's way, right? And now for me, lots of chatter, so lots of agreement about these handles I can see at the back of the room. For me, what we're going to do is we're going to meet with Hilti and we're going to talk about some of the concerns we have with those tools. We've made a pretty big wholesale shift on the use of tools within the region, you know, and it seems to be cyclical within the business. I've seen lots of manufacturers come and go within our tool room over the years that I've worked here. We've got a shitload of these Hilti tools, and if these designs are impacting our ability to do our job better and also putting our workers at risk, then we need to change them out and work with them for that. So I will be reporting back on the next supervisor call. Hopefully we get the meeting with the Hilti guys in time to talk about these design flaws that we need to get changed. So the last thing I just want to remind everybody is about the urgent triage program. Stickers on your hard hat. It's included within the project safety plan on your job. The nurse on the end of the phone is there to help, and she does a great job. Never had any complaints about the service that she provides. Her care for everybody here, you swear she was a Black & McDonald employee. She follows up with guys, she makes promises, and she honors those promises. So use the program when you need it, and expect good service from them. So, and if you see something, say something. Okay, that's it for me. Anthony.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be really quick, get everybody out of here. Dave, a man after my own heart. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of an update on how last year went, how this year's looking, some concerns we might have going forward, some good news stories. So last year we did $546 million in sales in our region. That's Southern Ontario Mechanical Electrical region. That's double what we've ever done before. A lot of that due to the mechanical project down in Windsor and Stellantis, but even without that, we still would have had our most sales we've ever had last year. The hours we worked last year, we did 2,458,112 hours last year, which is also a record for us. Really, really, really good. That keeps about 1,000 people in work for a year. That's kind of our goal. On safety, we had 17 recordable incidents last year. That's a lot. That's 17 people who needed medical aid. They got hurt. They broke an arm. They got a cut that needed stitches. They had to go to the hospital for some reason. That's not really good enough. That's why we talk so much about safety. This year, we're 5 months into the physical year. We're down to 3 recordable incidents so far this year. So if we could keep that trend up and maybe one year get it down to 0, that would be great. I had somebody, when I got here, ask me, about the current market uncertainty and tariffs and, how is that going to affect us? I wouldn't stand up here and lie to everybody and say that that isn't affecting us. It definitely is. We are working to try and mitigate it and deal with it as it happens. But a lot of things we have working in our favor against this uncertainty is we got over $750 million in contracted backlog right now. That's work that we have contracts for that we have to complete, so that should keep us going for quite some time. A lot of our work is with government funding, so that's all going to stay going. So we should be okay, but I don't want to make any false promises. Some projects that we currently have going on, you heard about Microsoft from Justin. We've got another one of those Microsoft data centers as well. We've got another large data center similar size called Yonder that's just starting. Project Eagle, the guys talked about in Port Colborne. Hopefully we're in talks with the union down there that we'll be able to get a lot of our local guys down there as travelers. So, that'll be good news for us. We'll get some of our workers down there who'll help us do the job, but also good news for those workers. They'll get decent pay being a traveler in the union. So hopefully we can get that going. On the Ontario Line North, we're on the Elevated Guideway project. We're on the Pape Tunnel North project. On the mechanical side of things, we're currently working on the new multi-billion-dollar hospital for Trillium Health Partners out in Mississauga. I'm sure people have heard about that. Our wastewater group is growing. We've kind of become almost market leaders in that M&E lately. And then we're also on an excellent team on the GTA Accelerator project. I don't know if people have heard about it. It's a couple of $1 billion project out at the airport. It's the middle stage of basically building the new airport. We're down to the final 3, our team of ourselves, Elliston and Dufferin. It's an excellent team. The other 2 teams are very good teams as well. But hopefully next meeting, we'll be telling you guys that we won that. On that note, I think Nancy's got a raffle to do for, I'm not sure what, but. Money. Oh, it's for money, okay. 24734 337. 24734 335. Oh, someone from the front. And then last one, but before I announce it, actually I have one more thing to add. So Wes talked about a good catch program. Next quarter's good catch program, whoever wins that, I'm going to give them 2 tickets to the Leafs playoff game. So get a good catch in. 24734 409. Thanks, everybody.